that consists of 55 states in African continent. Morocco rejoined the organization in 2017, making it the newest member state. In 1984, Morocco left the organization due to the organization recognized Western Sahara as an independent state. African Union is the continuation of its previous organization, which is the Organization of African Unity (OAU) that dissolved in 2002. OAU that formed in 25 May 1963 had its main purpose, which is to speed up the independence of African countries that still under colonial. African Union is founded by a very popular and strong leader, which is Muammar Gaddafi. The first chairman of African Union is South Africa President Thabo Mbeki, and the latest one in 2019 is the President of Egypt, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi.
The AU is the only international organization have the right to intervene in a member state on humanitarian and human rights issues. The objective of AU is to expand development to end conflict, poverty, corruption, and solve other African problems. I will explain the objective in security, economic, political, and social aspect. First, the objective of AU is to provide security through the Peace and Security Council (PSC), which is assisted by the chairperson of the AU Commission. PSC have a role to collect or respond of conflict and give yearly warning preparation to the crisis in Africa efficiently. Also, the role of the PSC is to provide peace, security, and solidity in Africa. The AU also playing a role in the economic aspect, which AU established the required condition which will allow the continent to play its legal role in the global economic and international mediation. The AU also playing a role in the social aspect. United Africa can be maintaining the African personality. This will help Africa maintaining values of humanism, collectivism, and egalitarianism, especially in demonstrate. Thus, the United African can state their view of the world expressed because of dominant people even without power. In addition, Africa, known as a country, has lot of mineral and agriculture resources such as gold, cobalt, petroleum, and other else. Thus, all these resources need a huge quantity of labor, which is African people in technical and industrial development. AU has involved in many peacekeeping operations to solve the problems and conflict among AU members. Peacekeeping operation AU have done in Somalia in 1919. Generally, Somalia was known as poverty, disorganization, and political instability country in the world. Furthermore, in 1991, after President Siad Barre displaced, the situation became worse because in 1992, the Security Council from the UN operation in Somalia someone to dissolve disarmament, give protection and security for UN staff, equipment, supplies, and guard delivery of humanitarian supplies. But its effort does not work and take the Council to establish a unified task force UNITAF to provide protection delivery of humanitarian assistance. However, because the number of people wanted the aid are much and the warlord's period is short, there was no threat to their power. Then the Council again from UNOSOM to in 1993 to cooperation with UNITAF to keep Somalia peace. Although in 2006, the Security Council allowed IGAD and AU members to begin a protection and training mission in Somalia. It was to protect members and infrastructure of the transitional federal institution and government and also to help in development Somalia National Security Force.
Hi everyone, today I'm gonna talk about challenges and how to overcome the problem that had been faced by African Union. As we know, African continent is one of the largest continents in the world and consists of many developed and undeveloped countries in it. Therefore, African Union need to face a lot of challenges and the organization need to come with one solution in order to overcome the problem. The first major challenge that has been faced by the African Union and their leaders is how to respond to the job and livelihood aspiration of Africa's youth who account for as much as 3/4 of the labor force in most countries. Many have gone to school and attended university to become productive members of society but end up being jobless. High and still rising levels of unemployment among young people in Africa prompted head of state at the African Union Summit in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea last June to adopt a declaration on creating employment for accelerating this development and empowerment. The African Union rightly recognized the demographic dividend to be reaped from the region's full population structure, as numerous countries in Asia benefited from the over past decades, and hence member states are encouraged to link their growth, performances, and development pattern to the creation of employment and socio-economic opportunities, especially for young people. African Union also need to face the problem of a pervasive and debilitating malnutrition problem, a backward and fragmented agriculture, the weakest industrial base in the third world, environmental degradation reflected in a losing war against desertification, withering features of the modern society to which Africans have been introduced, a debilitating debt problem, intervention by international financial institutions and their expert advisors who are assuming control over the management of African economies, a pervasive atmosphere of domestic unrest, tension and conflict which have oftentimes resulted in civil wars, interstate conflict resulting from border problems, or the activities of dissidents or rebel groups across the colonial boundaries, a chronic state of instability resulting from this internal and regional tension and conflict, and increasingly marginalized position in the geopolitical dynamic of the global scene. Partner in the West tend to view its relationship with China with some concern and skepticism regarding motive and outcome. Citizens of some African Union member states are apprehensive about the consequences on their personal well-being and livelihoods of growing Chinese presence in their national economies. The African Union will have to adopt an appropriate strategy to manage international cooperation in an era of globalization and in changing world order. It will need to come with a relevant and practical conceptualization of innovative and transformative partnership, which its member state will certainly need to complement national development effort. From political perspective, African Union overcome the challenge by peacemaking while in general spotlight more on alleviating or controlling the damaging outcome that radiates from a given clash than on discovering answer for the fundamental issue causing the contention. It normally includes the utilization of military drive for discouragement or peacekeeping. Strife settlement stresses achieving understanding between gathering through exchange and dealing. Compromise is an increasingly exhaustive methodology dependent on common issue sharing between the question gathering. Profound established reasons for the strife are tended to be the goal that the circumstances is never again vicious, threatening and exploitative. Compromise inspire win-win arrangement and does not utilize intimidation in spite of the fact that research have separate peace promotion settlement and the goals. This paper utilize the ideas rhetorically in as much as the goal is to end the strife. Compromise here spreads the entire range positive clash dealing with.
The contingents of the poor historical in the record of the regional cooperations and the operations in the past have led to many of the few to claim that the regionalisms in Africa is doomed to the failures. We also found that there have some success in the regionalisms that exist in Africa that would be limited in the scope. The judging of the historical experience and the contemporary conditions of the regionalisms in Africa is not the subject for the failure with the limited scope of the conditions. Regionalisms in Africa aims to the increasing and deepens of the regional cooperations and the integrations among the African states. Regionalisms been given a lot of meaning, such as, for instance, regionalisms mainly as in the economic projects that involving of the regional trade arrangements, its political and security projects. There have two corresponding of the classifications. The first is the regionalisms in Africa is conceptualized within the political project by African political decision makers. The second is X referring to the supranational levels of the territory dimensions, and the third one is it is focusing on the top-down of the process that lead by the African state and the government. There have four main factors that affecting the performance of the regionalisms in the post-colonial era. The first one is the traditional reluctance of the African state that called the sovereignty. Secondly is about the political and the ideological differences between the nation's leader among the leader due to the problem of political and the ideological can lead into the failure that to reach at the common positions on the cooperations and the integrations. Thirdly is about the weaknesses of the economy and the infrastructure in the most of the African countries, that they perceive an unequal gains from the regional integrations, and the limit of the intra-regional trades that among the African states. Overlapping of the membership of African states also can leading to the conflict of the loyalty and the confusion for the commitment. Globalizations also refer to the growing of the integrations of the economy and the society around the world. The globalizations of the economy including of the growing of the internationalizations of the trade, the capital of investments, finance and business, and the technology of the production. Globalization is not only using to refer in the economic sphere, but also using in the area of the communications and the transportations. Globalizations can cause to a great increase in the productions and directly leads to the developments. Therefore, globalizations that lead to the increasing of the product can also increasing the social welfare. Instance, these globalizations have benefit to rich and further the widens of the inequality between the developed and poor countries. Problem of unemployment and the poverty actually that have been eradicated in the African Union.